This is a video of Queenstown's AC-36 boat Hax. The AC-36 is a class of boat within the coastguard fleet that needs to remain compatible with each other to allow for cross-crewing between units. However, each location and unit is quite different and may require certain customizations. There are a number of different modifications and changes that Queenstown has made to its boat, and this video will highlight many of them. Modifications. The first one that we worked on was the front windscreen cover. We found that the domes were too difficult to put on and a little dangerous to undo while afloat. We've changed to little bungee cords on the corners, and we no longer use the domes. This makes it much easier, quicker and safer to get the cover on and off without the need to walk along the sides. The rear cover was very hard to slide out of the fitted track. We added a zip along the top edge so that it can be unzipped without having to unslot it. From the roof we have put hanging straps up. The top rail is a little too far above the head of some people. Having a strap is easier to reach. We added our ladder to the back of the boat. It is permanently attached and we just roll it out when needed. We found it useful for people to be able to self-assist while getting out of the water. While training with the helicopter, a number of divers were able to get on board quite easily with the ladder. The salvage pump, interestingly, has a priming bung that does not float. I discovered to my horror that with two bouncers on the pier, it can fall quite successfully into the water and be lost forever. The replacement bung, which was rather hard to obtain, has a hole drilled through the top of it and a float attached. Hopefully we won't be repeating that experience. The anchor is deployed over the front sponson. The rubber bow fairlead is not an easy way of pulling that back up, so it usually comes up over the side, potentially damaging the sponson. Instead, we have half of a plastic bucket that acts as a protector. This original one is quite old now, and is going to be replaced with a heavier-duty plastic cylindrical sleeve that can clip over the sponson in the same way and protect from the action of the rope and chain being pulled over it. We also have a small secondary anchor, which we use for most practice, and is easily deployed both forward and aft. Communications. We've had a number of problems with comms on our boat. The first thing that we really struggled with for a long time was major interference between the two SIMRAD radios. Common suggestions were related to the proximity of the two antennae, but our previous boat had its antenna closer. Eventually we discovered that the antenna cables had excess lengths bound together in very tight loops, tighter than the specified loop radius. The fix was to shorten the cables and separate them. Since then we have had no interference between the radios. The RS-40 handset has no key lock on it. When people grab it, they have accidentally changed channels, or changed from high to low power settings. We inquired with SIMRAD about a keylock code, but unfortunately, there is no such feature on these radios. The solution was to create a little button shield that protects the keys from accidental presses. This is a 3D printed piece that is stuck over the top and around the keys. The RS-40 SIMRAD VHF radio has an external speaker that is located in the cabin behind the nav station. We sometimes had difficulty hearing it and thought it would be useful to be able to have a pair of headphones. We've added two headphone sockets with a volume control. One of the headphone sockets will cut out the speaker, and the other one lets both the speaker and the headphones operate. The volume control only controls the volume to the headphones. The HS-40 handheld radio is Bluetooth to the RS-40. It did not at first prove useful. We found we were getting feedback to the base unit. It also has no key lock function. If clipped onto somebody, it was very easy to accidentally press a button which could change the channel or other functions. Another custom 3D printed button shield was created to solve that key lock issue. The thing which really made the HS-40 functional was when we added a headphone socket. This was particularly useful when we were using it with a helicopter. The HS-40 lets someone stand at the back of the CRV and communicate easily, listening through the headphones. For those units that have to lower their antennas, the antenna screw knob is quite uncomfortable to grasp. We have made an adapter that can clip over the top which enhances your grip. It can either be removed and used when required or left on permanently. In our case, we just keep a single one for the rare occasions when we need to lower the antenna. Our CRV has 4 fixed radios. We have added a Lancer radio to the police radio. The Lancer radio is a secondary unit that we have added into the side of the cabin entry. It gives us marine channels, as well as Lancer channels, and hopefully will be opened up to other services soon. Lights. We had a concern that the back of our boat was really quite strongly illuminated. The back of the boat is white and the stern light really seemed to light up the whole back such that if you turned around you could potentially lose your night vision. We created a stern light shroud that effectively shields the back of the boat. The stern light still reaches to the motors, but it means that the lower back of the boat is not quite so bright. If you stand at the back, you'll still look into the stern light and blind yourself, but if you turn around from inside the cabin and look aft, it is not nearly as bright with this shield in place. Another issue that we had was that the side lights that are fitted on the AC36 are a red-white light combination, but only a weak 700 lumen. Our previous boat had a much stronger set of beam lights, which we were accustomed to for our dark shoreline searches. The lights we had previously were a pair of 22,800 lumen LED lights. That is 22,100 lumen greater than the AC36 has. To be able to have those retrofitted onto the AC36 required getting electrical design survey modification and approval. Once we succeeded in getting that approval and had them fitted, it made a huge difference in terms of what we are able to do at night. We also invested in 2 handheld LEDs, which are much brighter, but use less power than our previous halogen ones. The 2 halogen ones would trip the circuit breaker if used together. During MOB practice, we like to ensure the starboard engine is in neutral. However, the mercury neutral lights are obscured by the helm's hand. We experimented with a way of relaying the neutral lights to a position that was easily seen, but it wasn't reliable. Then we discovered that you could actually display forward, neutral, and reverse on the Simrad data bar. Problem solved. The AC36 clock is a nice little analog clock. Unfortunately, you can't see it at night, so we've added a little red LED light that runs off a button battery. Enough illumination to be able to read the clock at night. Don't know why a rear vision mirror was not included. We have added one. Buoys and tracking. We have Bob, our fantastic overboard mannequin. To avoid the embarrassment of losing him completely, we have a little tracker attached to his neck. This is a subscription service that provides a 2-minute interval on his GPS location. We found that very satisfactory. We can unclip the tracker from around his neck and put it on other objects. Just pop them in the water and drive away, feeling sure that we can locate them even after a substantial drift period. We've created a number of Dan buoys. One is radar-based with a commercial radar reflector and a light on top. Another uses a flag and light. It is just an extendable paint roller pole with a float and a bit of chain at the bottom to keep it upright. Really cheap, but quite robust. We've made a few mini versions of these as well, using some of the old Zqn lights that were left over from the previous boat. The AC36 came with 2 orange solid life rings, which were very hard to store. They were located up in the bow, and it was difficult to clamber over them when anchoring or tying up. We replaced them, under exemption, with horseshoes. We found that the best place to mount one horseshoe was on the inside of the front hatch, using Velcro. The other one is mounted against the side of our salvage pump. In the cabin we have a set of removable hooks, which help organize our ropes and hold equipment. We have a long 3.5 meter pole. It is a long extendable paint pole. It currently has a hook on the end of it, but it also can have an attachment for our underwater video camera. It has also been useful for probing and measuring depth when we've gone up to the side of some of our jetties. For underwater, now instead of the camera, we have an underwater drone. This is a new thing that we are still experimenting with it. This is capable of going to 100 meters in depth. Search and rescue. There are 2 stopwatches that are located in a stand on the nav dashboard. They are just kitchen timers in a custom holder. There is a little modification on them so that you just press one side to reset it back to 0. And the other side to start it. We have 2 so that we can have both a cumulative and sequential timers running simultaneously. In addition, we have a custom SAR box, with box and sector search timer options. It gives timing and heading information. We have an older Fleur. Unfortunately, the resolution is not as great as new ones that people are sporting these days. However, one thing we found when we originally connected the Fleur up to the Simrad units was that we didn't really like the way it took up so much screen real estate. We decided we would revert to our original discrete screen, which we've mounted in the forward area of the cabin. It's out of the way, but everybody can actually see it. It can still be brought up on the helm side by using the video tab either full screen or as a window. With regard to searching, having the 22,800 lumen side lights is really important in increasing our beam sighting distance. We can stay outside of the 5-knot shoreline area and have a significant chance of seeing anything on the shoreline. We've been practicing at 400 to 500 meters, and certainly the illumination that we get from those lights is really significant. Other things. We've got some people who had difficulty seeing forward from the helm's position. We've created a little stool that they can stand on to remedy that. It is just a flat fender. When not in use as a stool, it is used as a step down into the cabin, and it's quite snug in there. And then when somebody needs it to be able to be our helm, we lift it up and pop it into the helm cavity. It's very stable to stand on. In addition, we found that people were requesting a booster seat. So we've made a small clip-on booster seat. It can give a firm, but elevated position on the seat. Things that we've got hidden away. We have a little 12-volt fan heater that can be used to help warm up the lower cabin area. Used in conjunction with the cloth cabin cover, we can enclose that area and warm it up. There is a small USB vacuum cleaner. We have quite a lot of bugs that suicide in our front windscreen. One of the things that we've had to fix on our boat was the windscreen washer gland, which snapped off at the bulkhead. At first, we sourced a replacement gland, but that was about $75. So the second time it happened on the other one, we fixed by using a small garden connectors, drilling a hole into the broken gland itself and gluing in the connector. A handy addition is a fuel spanner that we added a float onto. Things for the future. We are going to fit a dome compass. We have it in storage, but we are waiting till our next survey before we do that.